Hello, my name is D.Cline, and I am presenting my midterm paper for the Management 2540 class, which is Employee Recruitment, Selection, and Retention. I am the Assistant Director of Residence Life at Curry College and have been for the last 5 years, and so a lot of my role deals and revolves around staff management, including recruitment, selection, training, evaluation, retention of both student and professional staff. And so I thought it was appropriate for this class and for this midterm project to be able to research and evaluate and take a look at Curry College's recruitment and selection process. While I work closely with human resources on the selection process, I was very much interested in learning a little bit more, as I might not necessarily be familiar with all the steps, but only the steps that I'm usually encountering as a hiring manager at times. And so, for the purpose of my paper, I chose to focus on the recruitment selection process, recruitment specifically for professional staff members, just understanding that for students it may vary and the processes do change just based on the office, federal work study, and the likes. And so I focused on the status quo of the Curry College professional staff and faculty recruitment process. The recruitment process starts with filling vacant positions and filling vacant positions with being notified by the termination notice. This happens and is filled out and is the first step in the process when a staff member is either terminated or voluntarily resigns their position. Notification of the vacancy really does begin with this termination notice and starts off the process for things related to any sort of benefits, COBRA, as well as the exit interview process. But again, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm focusing on the recruitment process. The termination form shares information such as the employee's name, the type of employment, whether or not they're exempt or non-exempt, they're full-time, they're part-time, they're contracted, as well as the specific reasons for termination, including voluntary, involuntary, or other reasons. Voluntary reasons could be things like they're finding employment elsewhere, there's management dissatisfaction, or they've retired from the position. Involuntary reasons might include being dismissed from the role, unsatisfactory performance, maybe there's a layoff or a reduction, and then other, as outlined on the form, unfortunately includes any sort of death. Once that termination form and the termination notice is completed by the head of the department, it is brought forward and presented to Human Resources at Curry College. At that time, Human Resources provides the hiring manager or the department head with what is called the Position Requisition Form, or PRF. The hiring manager then must complete the PRF. This is typically available from HR, but also found on Curry's internal portal site within their HR page, Human Resources page. It's used to formally request the position at the college, whether or not it's new or as a replacement. And this information includes the job title, the department, the supervision that it provides or is provided for, whether or not what type of status it is, part-time, full-time, exempt, non-exempt, as well as shift information if it is an hourly based position. There's a second page of this process on this form, on the Position Requisition Form, or PRF, and it asks the hiring manager to really reflect on the position. It asks for opportunities and several different questions for the hiring manager to take a look at the position, the role, how it interacts with the office and in the college, and then make a determination through those questions whether or not or how that process is going to be impacted by the overall process as a whole. And so one of the questions would be discuss how alternatives to replacement have been considered in conjunction with human resources. And so is there an opportunity to redesign the work, find other opportunities for technology to be implemented instead of the use of a person, whether or not there's options for outsourcing the role to a vendor or a third party, whether or not status needs to be changed from full-time to part-time, or depending on the need of the role, part-time to full-time, or whether or not there are opportunities to redistribute the work to other positions or other departments. The next question is whether or not it fulfills a core institutional need, and asking the hiring manager to really explain that out as to why this position might be needed by the college as a whole. To ask for whether or not failure to fill the position creates an immediate health, safety, or compliance or risk factor, and what that might be. And so, depending on the position itself, there could be an extreme concern with related to health, safety, and risks for students and for staff at the college. So it really just depends. Public safety might be one of those positions where not hiring it would relate and would potentially cause some safety and health risks to the college as a whole. Another question is, does failure to fill the position create an immediate, or I apologize, does the position directly recruit, admit, retain, or graduate students? And you need to explain that process. And so what is the impact of this role on helping the student experience and providing that experience for them to be successful? Another question is, does the position generate revenue that offsets the position expense, or have a funding source? I have an alternate funding source identified. Please explain. Another is, does not filling the position have any negative impacts on the functioning of any other department on campus? And so by not filling that role, will it then set off a domino effect for other offices on campus? Another question is, if we had to eliminate one position in the department, would it be this position? If yes, why? If no, which position would be eliminated? And are other forms of compensation provided for this position in terms of things like meal plans or housing? And so it's really, again, asking the hiring manager to reflect on the role of the position and the impacts from this position overall to the college as a whole. So simultaneously, while completing the position requisition form, or PRF, a job description is provided to the hiring manager by Human Resources. They provide the current job description as it relates to the role or position being filled, as well as a blank job description for the hiring manager to then complete and review and revise if necessary. And this form contains 7 different parts. The first being essential functions, and so asking to list 3 to 6 major functions of the role or responsibilities and how those are accomplished through the job duties. These things could be like operational management or administrative processes, tutoring, budget oversight, staff oversight. Those aspects would be considered part of the essential functions. And then there are other aspects such as additional job duties, which are asked for and provided for. So these might not necessarily be primary duty responsibilities, but at the same time could be things like committee participation, still aspects that the position would be required to accomplish, while at the same time not necessarily a essential day-to-day function. And this is also the place where the typical line "other duties as assigned" is provided for as well as mentioned. There are asks for reflection on the minimum qualifications of the role, and so degree level, number of years work experience, specific skills that might be looking for, and then a tiered level for preferred qualifications such as a higher degree or specific work experiences. As it relates to the community director position, which is the role that I provided in one of the first homework assignments for that position description and then the posting for it, a lot of times what we end up seeing is that a bachelor's degree is required as well as a minimum 2 years experience in the residence halls. That's a minimum qualification. However, preferred qualifications, we seek master's level professionals. So those with a master's degree in higher education, student affairs, as it relates to the job and the job functions. There's also a section that relates to physical demands, and so these things could be like sitting, standing, walking, bending, using a computer, the computer screen for long periods of time with close vision, specific dexterity needs, lifting requirements, and then mental demands are also asked for as well. And so these are things like reading, being able to perform detailed work, the aspects of confidentiality, understanding or having the ability to be fluent in different languages, math, reasoning, oral communication, written communication, customer contact. And so these might be mental demands that are asked for specifically to take a look at and place on the job description for that specific position. Now, the hiring manager, after updating the PRF form as well as the job description, will send these forms to their senior staff member. That's typically a member of the executive team at the college. and that typically is the vice president for the specific division that they are responsible. For the Office of Residence Life and Housing, we report into the Student Affairs Division, and so that would be the Vice President of Student Affairs as the senior staff member. That senior staff member will then review and provide feedback, edits, as well as approval. Once the senior staff member approves those forms are electronically reviewed and submitted to the Vice President of Human Resources at the college for review at the Position Review Committee, the PRC. One thing that's important to note here at the college, at Curry College, is the fact that there's a 30-day waiting period for when the position becomes available or vacant to the time in which HR will actually meet to discuss the position itself. That is purposeful in terms of reflection, as well as opportunities for the office to consider restructuring or any other opportunities for organization. So there's a 30-day wait period. While those forms might still be with Human Resources, it will be 30 days until the hiring manager is able to start discussing that for that vacancy. So as I shared, those forms, the job description as well as the PRF, the position requisition form, they are sent to Human Resources and for review at the Position Review Committee, or the PRC. So HR receives that job description and they evaluate it. The Benefits and Compensation Administrator then classifies it, and a compensation analysis is done, as well as classification into a similar type of roles. Think of this in terms of administrative assistants or financial officers. Do the roles and responsibilities outlined in the job description align to a classification of job role and description? And if so, that helps out in terms of the compensation analysis. Information provided to the hiring manager and senior staff member in the Position Review Committee. All of this is provided in advance, and then the opportunity is there to then discuss that. The Position Review Committee is made up of the college's Vice President for Finance, who is also the Chief Financial Officer at the college, the Vice President of Human Resources, and the Vice President of Institutional Planning. Specifically, as it relates to the position review process, it is important to note that there is a specific bias and lens that the Position Review Committee takes. And that bias is towards not approving any new positions in the budget unless it is a result of a departmental restructuring that recognizes cost savings to make it cost neutral, or cost savings are realized somewhere else in the budget. Requests to fill an existing position because of a vacancy will also be vetted to determine if restructuring within the department could result in elimination of the position. And so there is a specific cost saving process in place by the Position Review Committee, rather than necessarily just replacing the positions each time they become vacant. And so there is some level of vetting that is taking place during this time. This is, as I said, there's evaluation during this time. This is where trend analysis, ratio analysis, regression analysis are slightly covered but not formally conducted. In speaking with the employment and recruitment coordinator here at the college and human resources office, they shared that this is still in the infancy at the college, in its infancy stage. And so the Position Review Committee is really when some of these aspects are being discussed in a slightly less formal manner, but still there is evaluation in that form. So during this PRC meeting, the senior staff member and the hiring manager attend and share with those other members of the committee. They present their official request at this time. Discussion is held on the relevant information, such as salary and responsibilities, the benchmarking that has taken place by the Benefits and Compensation Administrator, and then thinking about how this is integrated with the work of the entire department and how the work might be done through a restructuring of the area. So again, while it's thought of, there's also formal conversation about how this work can be done during this time. All of this information is then reviewed, all aspects and the roles of the position, the impacts to the campus community and the department, budgetary impacts, and then a recommendation is made to the executive team after consultation with the senior staff member. Final approval in the process for positions here at the college does come from the president. So once the position, assuming that the position is reviewed, it is approved by the executive team's recommendations and through formally by the president, then human resources will sit down with a hiring manager and potentially a senior staff member and identifying a recruitment plan. First, they identify folks that might be at the college that can serve in the search process if necessary, such as a search committee. Other times, depending on the position and the expediency of the hiring process, it might just result in the individual office or the hiring manager being the direct supervisor conducting the search themselves. At that time, specific core requisite questions are determined. And core requisites is a term from the applicant tracking system, the ATS, which is interview exchange here at the college, that are specific and weighted questions asked on the application to help screen minimum qualifications for the experiences and for the candidate. So at that time, when looking at the job description, that's where those core requisites are pulled from, those minimum qualifications that need to be held by the candidate. From there, the job description is taken. This recruitment plan is starting to take place, and a job posting is then crafted by human resources. This identifies the important position functions outlined in the job description, as well as leverages the employer brand. And for Curry College, and speaking with human resources representatives, the employer brand really revolves around being a liberal arts institution. It revolves around the close proximity of the Milton campus, speaking specifically of the Milton campus to Boston, being only 7 miles away. And so interested candidates who really find importance in being close to a large city might see that as significant value. The smaller sized institution really helps capitalize on those who want to work hands-on with students and in a more cross-functional way, setting greater teamwork as well as seeing less silos take place. And so that smaller size can really speak out to candidates as well. The lower ratio of students to faculty, specifically to faculty members, as an important aspect of the branding in which human resources tries to capitalize on. Other aspects that really speak volumes to candidates is our PAL program, which is a program for the advancement of learning. This is a program dedicated to students with language-based learning differences, executive function weakness, and ADD, ADHD. And so for faculty members who see Curry College and see this as a resource, that's going to be something that they look and is particularly attractive to them. The tuition remission process here is also significantly of value to potential candidates, understanding that you can receive an education as well as have an education provided for through the remission process for individual and immediate family members. From there, once the position posting has been crafted and approved by both human resources and the hiring manager, it's then posted through the college's applicant tracking system, or ATS, and again, that is interview exchange. Internal job postings are shared via email as well as available on the Curry College Human Resources internal portal page. And so internal candidates that apply within the first 5 days are given first consideration. In that job posting, the internal job posting, there is also an opportunity and specific line which indicates that the college really looks for current individuals that work here to utilize their networks effectively in helping bring on solid team members to the college, and as such are able to make referrals. And so if a current staff member or faculty member refers a candidate and that candidate is hired, as a gesture of appreciation, that current staff member receives a $100 gift card. And so the ATS here at Curry College not only goes to the Human Resources website, which candidates can particularly take a look at directly through the HR website here at Curry College, but at the same time it aggregates to popular sites, and other sites that Curry College uses and has the ATS aggregate to is higheredjobs.com, studentaffairsjobs.com, as well as Indeed and other online sites. Curry College takes a look to have hiring managers as well as office affiliates post to their professional development organizations and professional development sites, as well as post through social media, listservs, Certainly, something of interest that was found during the research for this project is that Craigslist is also used and used specifically for certain functional areas. And so, for buildings and grounds, information technology, those areas are particularly promoted through Craigslist as applicants are typically looking in that area. For the Plymouth campus for Curry College, they found success in posting to wickedlocal.com, which is a local newspaper similar to what we know as the Patriot Ledger. Search firms are used at the college. However, according to human resources here at the college, they are typically used for vice president and higher roles, as these are seen as costly. On the Curry HR site, there is position posting, and candidates are directly connected to the employment website, the ATS, from the Curry HR website. On the Curry HR website here, which is open and available to anybody in the public, they're able to see information about benefits, the diversity and inclusion statements, understanding better safety and security data. These are all published for the job seeker. They can also, like I said, click on the specific position link as outlined and separated by faculty and staff, and that will take them directly to the application form. The application form itself is a 6-step process. First starts with setting up an account, registering yourself with the account through Interview Exchange. The second step is those core requisite questions that we talked about. Those are helpful in pre-screening candidates by the hiring manager. Those are specifically weighted and have the opportunity to provide a direct report to the hiring manager as to where those individual candidates actually meet those needs. Candidates are then able to and asked to upload a mandatory resume and cover letter. Then they are able to provide in step 4 3 professional references that are not related to the candidate. Step 5 is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission questions that are optional and ask for things like gender, ethnicity, race, veteran status, disability status, and then the 6th step are additional questions regarding the recruitment process, including how the candidate learned about the position, and then question about being able to work in the United States on an unrestricted basis. Legally being able to work in the United States on an unrestricted basis. That is also typically the first question in step 2 under the core requisites, and so this is added twice on the application for confirmation. And that is because Curry College is unable to sponsor anybody at the college based on their hiring practices here. At that time, the application, once completed by the candidate, is routed through the applicant tracking system and made available for the hiring manager to review. And this is where it turns into the screening and interview process by the hiring manager and or the selection and search committee. When thinking about this position and the position posting overall in the recruitment process, Human Resources shares that on average it takes between 90 to 120 days from start to finish. And this really is dependent on the office and their involvement overall. That is the recruitment process at Curry College, the status quo recruitment process at Curry College. Thank you very much.